Hello, I'm Tammy and I do math for coffee. And this is a new thing for me to do live streams. I've done a couple of them before, but they were pretty short. This one's going to be a little longer. I know some people who are in Algebra 1, and I have a feeling they might be having a test this week. So I wanted to do a review of some possible test questions. Now, these are like my test questions, but I'm retired, so nobody's getting graded on these, so it's not cheating for me to do them. So please be patient with me if you leave a question in the chat and I miss it right away. But when I'm done with all the questions, I'll go back and look at all of them. And of course, this will be saved on my channel. So I'm just going to get started. This first one is find the slope of a line. And I've given you 2 points. And the thing about slope, let's do review as we go. A lot of different ways that teachers will teach it, but slope is rise over run. And the way I teach it is I always want my students to run left to right. So you're always going to go from this point to that point. You're going to go from left to right. Oh, a school bus just went by. Fun. Okay, and the reason I do that is because that's how we read, and that just feels real natural. So, but the rise, you can either go up or you can go down. And so if your rise is going up, that number will become positive. And if you're going down, that number would be negative. So I look at this one and I can see that if I'm going to go from this point to this point, I have to start by going up. I don't have to go up, but that's how I always do. I always do the rise first because that's the top number. And we went, and then we'd go over this many. So how many up did we go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we went up 5, and that would be a positive 5 because I went up. And then I'm going to go over 2. So the slope of this line is 5 halves. Okay, for number 2, we're going to do the same thing, but to get from going from left to right, to get from this point to this point, I have to start by going down 1. I went down 1, so my rise would be -1. And then I'd go over 1, 2, 3, +3. So the way I do it, the bottom number is always going to be positive, but your slope here is -1/3. Okay, number 3, find the slope of the line through each pair of points. Well, here is where you would probably see the slope equation. They use terminology here. They'd call this x1 and this one y1, and this would be x2 and y2. And the equation that you would see in algebra class, they'd go y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and that would be the slope. So here's my y2, here's my y1. So that would be -16, and you have to subtract. That's part of the equation or the formula. We're going to subtract this -12. I purposely chose a problem that had all negatives because if you're reviewing for a test, that's going to be the sort of thing that is going to mess you up. And then for the x's, here's x2, here's x1. So I'm going to have -10, and we're going to subtract -3. Now we got some double negatives going on there, so that's going to change to a positive. So I have negative 16 plus 12 over negative 10 plus 3. And that is going to end up becoming negative 16 plus 12 is 4. And negative 10 plus 3, whoops, negative 4. Watch for my sign mistakes. Since I'm going live, I don't get to edit out my mistakes. And I just did it again. It's 7. See? Oh, dumb human mistakes. I do them all the time. Well, you have a negative over a negative, so they cancel out. So we end up with 4/7. That just means if you were to graph this, if you graphed those 2 points and drew the line in between them, to get from one point to the next point, you would be going up 4 and then over 7. And that's how slope works. Number 4. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. Except there's something different about these. That's why I included it. So here's x1, y1, x2, y2. I am going to go y2 minus y1 on the top. So that would be negative 9 minus another negative 9. Most of the time I put those in parentheses, but I'm just not doing that today. So I have 4 minus this negative 1. Because those double negatives change to pluses. And sometimes I think that makes more sense when you don't use parentheses. So now I have negative 9 plus 9 over 4 plus 1. And we're going to end up with 0 over 5, which just means a 0 slope. Now, a 0 slope, what is that going to look like if you graphed it? It would be flat. Number 5. Again, x1, y1, x2, y2. And if you do have a test, I do recommend that you do that, because when you're taking a test, your stress level is going to be up a little high. So writing in little things like this to help your brain keep things straight is really a good idea. So we're going to do 17 minus 14 over negative 7 minus another negative 7. 17 minus 14 is 3. This is negative 7 plus 7. So I end up with 3 over 0. And I'm showing you that one to compare and contrast with the one above it. When the 0 is in the numerator, the answer is 0. And so the slope is 0. When the 0 is in the denominator, we call that undefined because it is. You can't divide by 0. Undefined. Now what that looks like, if you were to graph these 2 points, what you'd get is a straight vertical line, straight up and down. 0 is flat. It has no slope. Undefined is like, think 90 degrees from there. It goes straight up. All righty. Let's move on. And that's the first 5 questions. Throw that on the floor. Let's do number 6. I don't know about your teacher, but I loved this kind of question and I used it all the time. So I wouldn't be surprised if I was the only math teacher who thought that. Find the value of x and y so that the line through the points has the given slope. So what I'm doing here is I'm giving you the answer. I'm telling you that the slope answer is 1/4, but I'm just not telling you what one of the coordinates is. So I want to see if you know how to figure that out using the slope formula. So approach it the same way. X1, Y1, X2, Y2, and this is your slope. That's your answer. So that means that 4 minus this y we don't know over -6 minus this 2 equals 1 over 4. Now from here, the algebra gets to be something you might have forgotten how to do, so this is a good one to review. I'm going to go this way. So we have 4 minus y over -8. That equals 1 over 4. Now from here, you have to cross multiply. This is solving a proportion. So I'm going to multiply these two together and these two together and set them equal to each other. And I think I'll start with this one. 4 times 4 minus y equals -8 times 1. Then it's distributive property. 16 minus 4y equals -8. Then we're going to subtract 16 from both sides. These will cancel, and you have minus 4y. Don't drop the negative. That negative is on that 4y. Don't lose it. And then a -8 and a -16 is a -24. Then we're going to divide both sides by -4. And we get the answer y equals 6. You're not required to do checks, but if you're not sure, this is what that would look like on this problem. Might not be a bad idea just to see if that's true. Is the slope between the points 2 and, well, we just figured out it's 6. So 2 and 6 and -6 and 4. Well, let's figure it out. So it'd be 4 minus the 6. -6 minus the 2, this gives us -2 over -8. The negatives will cancel and you get 2 over 8. And if you reduce that, that does equal 1/4. So the check totally works. And you know you got that test question right. If you're watching on the replay and you have questions, go ahead and leave the comments. I am going to be watching for that. I just wanted to do that as a live so I wouldn't spend forever editing. And we have sketch the graph of the line. Ooh, x-intercepts and y-intercepts. That's fun. Okay, let's review that real quick. X-intercept. The x-intercept is where your line is going to cross your x-axis. It's going to tell you where to put that number. So that thing is sitting at 4. So let's put it at 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. The x-intercept has a y value of 0. So if they wanted you to write the point out, the point would be 4, 0. It's easier just to think of the x-intercept as being the number that crosses the x, and the y works the same way. The y-intercept, oh, that's a deep purple. You're going to cross the y-axis. Where is it crossing that? It's going to cross that at 2. So we put the dot at 2. And once you have 2 points, you can graph the line, but I forgot to write the coordinates of that point. So the y-intercept, the y is the number, not the x. The x is 0. So x is 0 and y is 2. And now I can draw my line. Lines have arrows on the end. I'll teach you that when you get to geometry. Okay, there you go. That is how you graph a line from the x and the y intercepts. The language is probably worse than the actual doing of the math. All right, number 8. Oh, we're supposed to graph this, and I'm not telling you how to graph it, but I am going to tell you there's an easy way to do this. We're going to use those x and y intercepts. Now remember, from this question right here, for the x-intercept, you have an answer for x, but the y is 0. And for the y-intercept, you have an answer for the y, but the x is 0. So from here, what I would do is I would just start with one of the intercepts. It doesn't really matter. The x-intercept is where y equals 0, which means you need to just cover up the y. It goes away. Like if you made y equal to 0, like right here, look at this. You made y equal to 0 and you took 0 times 3, what you get? You get a 0. It's not there. So just cover it up and write down the equation p. When y equals 0, the only thing that's left is 2x equals 6. Cool, huh? Now divide both sides by 2, and you're going to get x equal to 3. That means one of your points is going to be 3, 0. Boom. And to find the y-intercept, they may ask you just to find intercepts too. They may not have you graph them, but when that happens, rethink the x part equals 0. Well, if the x part equals 0, just cover that up and write down what's left. 3y equals 6. Yep, cover that with my finger. 3y equals 6. Divide both sides by 3, and we get y equal to 2, which means, remember, the x is 0. The y is the one that has a number. So then we go up to the 2, and we put a dot there, and then we're going to connect the dots. I hope you guys can hear me. Otherwise, I just am making an entire video with no sound. Oh well, got to learn, but I think you can. All right, that was question number 8. I don't know how many we have, 15 or 16. I'm giving you my entire exam that I would give you in class. Although usually when I did stuff in class, I would have like a multiple choice portion and a free response portion. For these, I'm just doing them all. Oh, I have to graph this line too. I know it doesn't say that, but the directions were on the other piece of paper. We're going to graph this. Couple ways you can do it. You can do it old school, like coming up with some points, but the idea here is that by this time I'm in Algebra 1, you should have learned about y equals mx plus b, and you might have even learned about that in 8th grade. So when this m is your slope, and then the b is your y-intercept, whatever that number is. So we were just talking about intercepts, right? So whatever is in that spot, including the sign, doesn't have to be positive. If there's a minus there, minus. This one is a +1, so that y-intercept is 1, and you start there. Then the next thing you do is you use your slope. Now this one says the slope is 2. Well, you need to have an up version, up and down version, and a side-to-side version. Remember, slope is rise over run. So you got to write it like a fraction so we know how to move. Slope is telling you the movement. The y-intercept is telling you where to start. So starting from here, like you're searching for a treasure or something, you go up 2, 1, put a point there. And once you have 2 points, you can draw a line. Hopefully you've had a lot of practice graphing y equals mx plus b, because this is pretty darn handy. And we are done with that problem. Okay, question number 10. Write the slope-intercept form of the equation of each line. Oh, okay, so here's what's going on. I'm going to ask you to write a bunch of equations, and they all need to be in slope-intercept form, which means your final answer is going to look like this. Oops, mx plus b. So if I give you a graph, what you want to do is look for that y-intercept. It's right here. So I know that that y-intercept is a positive 1. And when I put that in the equation, that is going to be this b right here. Now I've got to come up with the slope. Well, to get the slope, I've got to find another point. And that can be a little tricky here, because you want to try to look on the graph and find it where the line is actually crossing somewhere. And I'm thinking it's not, see right there, it's really close to the 2, but not quite. I think we got to go all the way down to here. Right there. So to get there, I have to go rise over run. That's what we're going for. And in this case, going from left to right, I have to drop first. I can't go up. I won't get there going up. I've got to go down. So that means my rise is negative 1, 2, 3, minus 3. And my run, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, minus 3 over 5. Okay, so that's my slope. That's a lot of work already, so I feel like I'm done, but I'm not. I need the equation. So the actual equation is going to be y equals the slope times x plus the y-intercept. That's the format, and what's going to go in there is negative 3/5, and the y-intercept is 1. You just pop them in. So the final answer is y equals negative 3/5 x plus 1. There we go. Let me get a drink of coffee, because I does math for coffee. Okay, number 11. Write the slope-intercept form of the equation of each line. Oh, come on, Tammy. This one's too easy. And everybody's like, what? Slope-intercept form. Remember what it is. It's y equals mx plus b. And all you need to know is what is the slope and what is the y-intercept. And look what I just gave you. This is the slope, and that's the y-intercept. So just write the answer. Y equals 4/3 x plus 1. And yeah, it is that easy. When you see something like that, if you see something like that on your own test, don't overthink it. You didn't do anything wrong. It really is just checking. It's kind of like a definition check to see if you understand the vocab. All right, number 12. Write the slope-intercept form of the equation of each line. Again, we want slope-intercept form. This thing is in standard form. Slope-intercept form has everything solved for y. So you want to do algebra on this to convert it into something where the y is by itself on this side and it's positive. So 3x minus y equals 3. The first thing I'm going to do is subtract that 3x from both sides. This cancels out, and that's minus y. Don't drop that negative. Minus y equals. Now, sometimes you would probably keep the 3 first, but in this form, the thing with the x has to go first. So I'm going to go negative 3x plus 3, because that is a positive 3. And you might think you're done, but you're not, because this isn't y. This is negative y. The easiest way to change that is just to change all the signs. Some people might want to divide by -1 and do a lot of work here. I don't like to do that. I'm just going to go through and change all the signs. I'm going to change colors too, because I used red there. So if I change this to a plus, this changes to a plus, and this changes to a minus. So final answer is y equals 3x minus 3. Oh, hi, thank you. Thanks for the comment. I wasn't even sure. I didn't even know if this was like working, and much less anyone's helping. So I'm glad you're watching. If you have questions, let me know, because you're just the only one in here right now. Okay, let's go to number 13. I'm going to do more of these, I think. This is kind of fun, and then I don't have to edit. Okay, write this. It's not like I teach any differently than I do in my videos. In my videos, I just usually edit out all my breathing. Write the slope-intercept form of the equation of the line through the given point with the given slope. Okay, things are getting serious here, because instead of me just telling you what the y-intercept is, we are going to have to use something else. When I give you something like a point and the slope, I don't know if your teacher has shown you this, and there might be more than, I know there's another way to do this, but I liked using the point slope formula. And so I'm going to assume that your teachers might have shown you how to do this with y equals mx plus b. So you can, if you've already seen that, you know how to do that or can look it up. I like the point slope formula. So here it is. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now, in this situation, you are going to change these things into numbers. Can you hear those little kids? The elementary school got out and they're walking by my house. That's your point right here. And then your slope is what is given. They gave us the slope. So this is x1, this is y1, this y and this x, you keep those as variables because you're writing an equation. You can't just change everything to numbers. You got to have a y and an x in here. So when I substitute everything in, I'm going to have y minus something equals something x minus something. Sorry, I do that just to be super clear. Y1 is -2, and it is -2. And I know there's a minus in the formula, but I'm popping a -2 in there. And the minus x1, the x is 3. And then the slope is 2/3. All right, from here we do some algebra stuff. I need to have, I got a double negative there, so that's going to change to a plus. So I have y plus 2 equals 2/3 times x minus 3. Yeah, I want to grab another piece of paper. Go like that. Okay, now we got to do distributive property with this right here. And we're going to get y plus 2 equals, well, 2/3 times x is, hecka easy. And then this minus, and then we're taking this 2/3 times a 3, which I'm going to write as 3/1. I'm hoping you can kind of do that in your head, but if you can't, this is what's happening. 2/3 times 3/1, which means the 3's cancel, and you end up with just a 2 here. When you take a fraction times its own denominator, it ends up canceling that denominator, and we end up with y plus 2 equals 2/3 x minus, this would just have ended up being 2/1, which is 2. So remembering how to do it is one thing, but having to deal with the fractions when they pop up, that's review from, years ago. People forget. Now from here, I am going to subtract 2 from both sides, and we get y equals 2/3 x minus 4. I have a whole video, I think, on different ways to do these, and I would have the other method where you use y equals mx plus b. When I'm done with the live and I go back in and I'll put a link in the description so you guys can go watch that if you want to. But that is the answer for this one. Okay, number 14. It's the same kind of problem, but now I'm giving you even less information. So on this one, I gave you the slope, but we're still writing the slope-intercept form. So it's the same thing it's just that I didn't give you the slope. So we're going to have to figure out that slope first, and then we pick a point. So let's get the slope. This is x1, y1, x2, y2. So our slope is going to be this 2 minus 5 over this 2 minus 0. So we're going to end up with, what is that, -3? -3/2. Sorry, gotta shuffle some stuff around on my desk. Okay, now, so I know this is my slope, which is awesome. There's a shortcut you can take here. I am going to still do it the same way, but if anybody recognizes that this is a y-intercept, then you could just go ahead and write the equation right now. If you don't recognize that, which I assume might be the case on the day you're taking a test in your Algebra 1 class, then you're going to use the same method you used for this last one, which for me and my students was to use the point slope form. And after years of teaching this, I know it's another formula to memorize, but kids really liked it better. So I'm just going to pop the numbers in here. That's my point that I'm going to use. So y minus, well, y1 here was 5. My slope is -3/2 times x minus, cool, I love 0. So what we're ending up with here is y minus 5 equals -3/2 x. There is no reason to do distributive property with the 0. All I need to do now is just add that 5 to both sides. And I'm going to do that in my head. Y equals -3/2 x plus 5. And we are done. Remember how I said you probably won't recognize that you have the y-intercept right here until after you're finished. And because that's how it works. Like, oh, yeah, I could have just done that, huh? All right, number 15. And more. Write the slope-intercept form of the equation that is going through this point, but is parallel to that line. Parallel and perpendicular. Parallel means you're going to have the same slope. And these problems always look more complicated than they are. It doesn't have anything to do with this one. You just need to know if you're going to be parallel to this line, your line has to have the same slope. And that's all you need from that. You don't need anything else. I just needed the slope. That's it. That's all I wanted. And I still have my point. So I'm going back to my go-to. Y equals mx plus b. No, not that. Y equals, I'm getting tired. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And we are going to be popping numbers in right here and here. And the slope goes there. So y minus, well, our y is 1. Our slope is 1/4. That's all you needed for parallel. You don't need to even work it any harder than that. Just know just using the same slope is what you're looking at. Minus, and the x1 is -4. I got a double negative there. Y minus 1 equals 1/4 times x plus 4. Do distributive property. Y minus 1 equals 1/4 x plus, when you take 1/4 times 4, that's just a 1. Now add 1 to both sides to get that y by itself. Don't do mental math when you get to the end of your test. You'll be tired like I am right now. Write everything out. 1/4 x plus 2, and you are finished. One more question, and that means we got to go perpendicular. Oops. So this was for parallel. And we do the same thing for perpendicular with one little change. You do not use, this is the abbreviation for perpendicular, by the way. You don't use the slope as is. You have to flip it, because perpendicular lines make 90-degree angles, right? Like this. They go in opposite directions. So if this guy's going this way, this guy's going the other way, they're perpendicular. You have to be completely opposite. So what I want you to do is you flip your slope and you change the sign. So instead of using -3/4, we are going to use a +4/3. Everything else is the same. So y, you can see it right here. So y minus y1. Well, look, my x and y are the same. I can't screw this up. What a nice last question. And we end up with 4/3 x minus 3. Now we have to do distributive property. Y minus 3 equals 4/3 x. That's no big deal. Remember, when you multiply a fraction times its denominator, yeah, I rigged it. All of my fractions were canceling out. And that's just teaching philosophy. Like when I gave I wanted to know if my kids could do the algebra, and I didn't want them getting tripped up on a lot of complicated fraction work. That's just me. That's not all teachers. So if you need to review your fractions, you better. I still had them, but they usually canceled out. This cancels too. Y equals 4/3 x plus 7. And there you go, guys. We are done. I think that is not the length of my whole test. There would be this is the free response, there'd be a multiple choice thing, but that's pretty much all the types of questions that I would have on my linear equations test. So if there are any other questions as you watch this, especially if you're watching on the replay, well, drop them in the comments, let me know. Other than that, if you're watching me live, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Um, I think I wanna do this again. Hopefully, I'd get better at it if I did this badly, but I did the best I can with what I got. Live and learn, right? Thank you guys. You guys have an awesome day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Wait, I'm just looking. There are no more comments. Yay. Bye.